Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Xbox Factor podcast, the Tuesday edition. I'm your host, or one of your hosts, Mr. Boomstick XL. And folks, don't get worried. It's not just me and Zemi. 3-Bit is running a tad late. Pong Soul is having some technical issues. But Zemi Games, the cog that keeps this show running each and every week, is here. He's ready to talk games. How the heck are you, Zemi?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. I just looked at myself on the camera and I thought, man, Zimmy, you needed the shave before the show. You're looking a little homeless.
Look at that. I shaved today because last night I looked like an old man. Yeah,
I'm looking a little homeless. It's getting a little out of control. But no, man, super excited to be here. These topics, they look fantastic. We were talking before the show, and I'm still playing Skyrim. I'm still addicted to that game. I need to figure out how to beat that game, how to do probably well over 60 hours of content in like 24 or 48 hours or something. Because
sorry.
It's not going to happen, but something magical happens this Thursday, and we're going to be talking about it a little bit later on in the show. So I'm super excited about that.
Yes, as a matter of fact, folks, as Zemi is alluding to, 12 Minutes, folks, is going to be coming out on Thursday. It is a game that is already getting some buzz. We have some breaking news regarding the game. Someone within the gaming industry has stepped up to get behind this game in a big way, and it's really important. But listen, folks, as we wait for everyone to get in here, now, if you are an indie fan like I am, one of the bigger indie publishers is Devolver Digital. And obviously, thanks to a lot of what they have done, they have spotlighted a lot of smaller titles that we are playing and we are quite enjoying. Death's Door, I believe, is Devolver Digital, and that is going to be potentially running for Game of the Year. It's a game that I actually beat, surprisingly enough, and it's more Zelda-like than it is, of course, Souls, which is what it was originally depicted as. And I know people are like, usually I have gameplay playing in the background. You see a black screen. The reason why I have a black screen, because I have something paused that I want to share with the entire community. I was so taken aback. I'm almost sad that Joe, Mr. Babbitt, isn't here to witness this because it is a Devolver Digital title, folks. It is called Trek to Yomi, or Yumi. No, it is Yomi. It is Yomi. Yomi. Trek to Yomi. And listen, folks, I'm going to play that. I have the sound off, obviously, because I don't want to get a copyright strike. But I had to open up the show with this, and I'm going to run through it a couple of times because I want Pong Soul's opinion when he gets back in here. But here we go, folks. Take a look at Trek to Yomi. Here we go. Oh, I don't have the sound off. Well, that's not good. Now, I mean, obviously, I thought, I mean, even Zemi said Ghost of Tsushima, right?
Mm-hmm.
Folks, this is a side-scrolling game. I'm blown away. Like, it's already potentially going to be a Game of the Year contender, and it doesn't come out to 2022, folks. This is amazing.
Yeah, no, it looks absolutely incredible. There's not enough samurai games.
There's certainly not enough.
There's just
samurai.
not.
No. I mean, listen. What can I say, folks? It's absolutely. I'm stunned by what that game looks like. I don't know. I'm going to get to the chat right now and see what you folks are what you're saying. Yeah, here's Pong Soul. Pong, you're back, brother. How you feeling?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we certainly can. Excellent. Listen, we were talking about a Devolver Digital title that has been making the internet go absolutely crazy. It's closing in on 250,000 views. It was just dropped a couple of hours ago. I want to get your opinion on it. It is called Trek to Yomi.
Yep.
I put it into our chat, but I want to play it again for the people that are here and watching. I am completely blown away by the aesthetics. I'm an old school samurai fan. Growing up, back in the days here in New York on Channel 5 on Sundays, they used to have the black and white karate films as well as the samurai films. If you are from the New York area, Cognito, if you're listening, if my brother Neo Mental's listening, they probably have a grin on their face because they remember the Channel 5 films on Sundays that were, depicted of, samurai and ninjas and the old karate films. This is absolutely stunning. Now, Zemi, you said something pretty interesting when you look at the end of this very small clip of the game. You said, look at what, besides the name, what does it say on the bottom? And what it said in the bottom is that, I think this is made by one guy. I'm going to get to specific. Yeah, game by Leonard Macherny. One man made this game, folks. Another one-man machine. He says, look at the bottom. It says PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. Everyone gets a chance to play this. Where do you fall on this semi games?
I mean, I think it looks fantastic. Like what you were saying, it definitely has that. It's reminiscent of those older black and white samurai movies that I know of, but I've never watched. And I really like that. I really like, that artistic, I guess decision to make it black and white, which I think, can kind of be scary to some developers, but, they obviously had a vision for the game and they wanted to kind of encompass that, which I think is really, really cool. Graphically, I think it looks amazing. Whenever you first turned it on, I was like, wait, is this Ghost of, Tsushima? I think graphically it really looks pretty gosh darn good. And the side scrolling, usually I am not the biggest fan of side scrollers, as we were talking before the show. But this is definitely one of those games that I'm going to have to jump into. Same as, the Escape, 80s kind of, rock guitar game that we've been talking about earlier, throughout, this month.
What's the name of what's the first, what is it called? The Great Escape? Or
I'm wanting to say Great Escape, but I feel like that's wrong. But just like that game, this one definitely pulls me in.
The Artful Escape. That's what it is.
The Artful Escape. That's it. I also really like the side scroll, aspect of it. It really kind of reminds me of Samurai Jack, which I think is pretty appealing to a lot of gamers. And I think that just, front faced will get a lot of players interested in this game, with it being samurai, with it being side scroller. I think, a lot of people might think back to Samurai Jack, and they might even just be more interested in playing the game because of that. So for me, it's definitely a will get once it's out in 2022.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, listen, we got a couple of stars in the chat besides our regular crew. We are blessed, folks. The Pope. That's right. Xbox Pope is in the chat. Pope Art. What's up, brother? And yes, I bought your Needler. So I'm back on the good. I'm getting the blessings. The Needler is ordered. And obviously, I'm a supporter of the Xbox Pope, folks. This is his Cyberpunk edition. Of course, I have it. It is stunning. I mean, it even looks like there's an actual tear, and it's just the art, which is why we love the Xbox Pope. But listen, let's welcome in before we get to Pong Soul. 3-Bit, welcome back, brother. How you feeling?
Good, man. It's been busy.
Yeah, I heard you were a sought after artist, brother. Well, listen, just remember, don't forget where you that the little guys like Mr. Boomstick when you become a trillionaire.
Yeah, man.
It's great to have you. It's great to have you here, brother. You being a part of the show is super chill, and we love having you here. But Pong Soul, great way to open up today's show. It's not an Xbox exclusive, but as a gamer, I think you got to walk away from that trailer feeling pretty damn good, regardless of where you're going to play it. And we know that it's going to be available on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and of course PC. What are your thoughts on the Trek to Yomi?
Well, I was privileged enough to do the Devolver showcase for E3
Very
with
nice.
Indie Gamer. So we saw this there first. So I'm glad that it's finally getting the attention that it deserves, because when this came on their showcase, I was like blown away. And it was obviously a standout amongst all of Devolver's standout games that they always wind up doing. But this game appeals to me in so many different ways. The art direction is absolutely beyond fantastic. Like both yourself and Zemi just talked about, the ode to the old samurai movies of back in the day. It's just it touches a special place in my heart, because I have watched a lot of those. My dad was a huge fan of those, so growing up I watched them. But when this first came on the screen, I was like, what is this? And then as they showed it, and then as the view switches not just from 2D but to the 3D effect style, and they show the crumbling buildings and that kind of stuff, man, I was absolutely, like I said, when I first saw this was one of my standouts, and I am glad again that they put this out and that the world is taking notice. The gaming world is definitely taking notice of this, because this is going to be another game to look forward to. And it's great. I'm happy that everybody's going to be able to play this. Like you said, it's not an exclusive in any way, shape, or form, and that's fantastic. Again, Devolver's games are so good. I always want everybody to experience them. Then so good on everybody. But yeah, this is definitely high on my list. Looking forward to this come down the road for sure.
Yeah, I gotta say, it just seems that Annapurna and Devolver Digital, they just don't seem to miss. Nope. I mean, they just, wow, is all I got. And what I think is happening, and I don't know if the Pandy is responsible for this. Obviously, we'll never know. But big game development took a major punch to the chin.
Yep.
Right. And it was because these big studios had these big offices with bunches of people all in on each other on a daily basis. And that's just development, right? And we're going to get to 3-bit, who knows a thing or two about development. But the smaller indie community that has 1 or 2 or 5 or 12 people working and have worked across continents, right? This is something that they're used to. We're starting to see that the community that wasn't hindered the most is the indie community. And maybe because they have not stopped working, we're seeing, so I mean, think about it. 2021 is going to be remembered for a lot of things that are not horrible. Gaming, I mean, sure, it's easy to say, oh yeah, the delay of this, or Halo Infinite that, or Forza Horizon 5 this. That's great. But I think that if we're going to remember anything of 2021, it is going to be the year of the indie. There are just so many incredible titles that we're going to be talking about for years. 3-bit, where do you fall with, of course, the trek to Yomi, but more importantly, what I'm saying about the indie community coming up big in this year and potentially years to come now?
Yeah, the indie community, it's really fascinating where it's been headed, and some of my favorite games this year are indie games for sure. And technology is getting better, right? So a lot of indie teams, a lot of these games that are quote unquote indie games are the graphically are sometimes on par with some AAA games. I mean, we looked at a game like Hellblade that was, it had a really small team, and their goal was to do something like make the game look as AAA as they can with such a small squad for the first game. Now they get a bigger team, right? But yeah, this samurai game looks fantastic. It looks beautiful. It looks sort of inspired by Akira Kurosawa, which for those who don't know, he's like a old samurai director. He made amazing samurai films. Usually if you go to film school, they will mention him at some point. made this beautiful black and white films, and it seems like that sort of mixed with the game Inside.
Yes.
With the way they pull out the camera and stuff like that, and I love that game. So that seems like a good mixture of both of those things. But yeah, the indie community is thriving. These especially this year and the next few years, it seems like based on some of the engine technology we're now getting. Like think about Unreal Engine 5, right? That's free. I know
Yeah.
it seems like oh, only certain people get access to that, and that was true for a bit. Now I think they're starting to slowly roll it out to people, and I have it and it's great. But for like indie devs, they get that, and it's free for them, and they're able to test out different tools, and game development is getting easier and easier, but it's also getting more ambitious and more ambitious. So it's really amazing that we do have different companies like Microsoft and promoting the indie program, the having a whole showcase dedicated to it, whether you like it or not. It's pretty cool that they are at least having a showcase to promote indies. And
Well, yeah. Well,
yeah,
absolutely,
so
100%. I mean, listen, I will say this to that, to your point. This is pretty important part of the conversation. Is this, the way that the indies have talked up Xbox? You see, it's easy for Microsoft to go out there and say, yeah, check out this game, check out that game, showcase here, put it up on E3, right? It's Microsoft, easy for them. But when the conversation turns and it's the indie community that you hear on interviews, on, let's say, for instance, Kind of Funny Gamecast, where the producer and creator, one man of 12 minutes, got up there and said, hey, listen, he told the story, how funny it was of how Microsoft got involved. Microsoft saw the game, said, hey, listen, we love what you're doing. He said it. Here's a bunch of money. Go develop, take your time. Come back to us when it's ready. You have full control. No, we don't, do your thing, right? How many trillion-dollar companies do that? Not many. But Microsoft seems to be sitting really pretty with the indie community. And it's not just him saying that. We've heard that from the team that made The Ascent. We've heard that with the one man that's making Tunic. We've heard this from many, many different folks that work with Microsoft on how easy it is. And I say that for Sony, this is a bad look, folks, because remember, there's still some controversy going on with the way they treat indie developers on these so-called managers that they can't get in touch with, right? So it's a bad look for Sony, and it's a great look for Microsoft. And even though this is obviously Trek to Yomi is multiplat, I mean that for me anyway. I saw people saying in the chat screams Game Pass day and date. You know what I'm saying? You see that game and you're like, Devolver Digital, let's make a deal, because that would be fantastic. But listen, folks, again, I kind of called an audible. I want to open up the show. I wanted to open the show with this original story, but listen, let's get into it. This year, one of the bigger announcements was, of course, the Steam Deck by Valve. Now, many in the Xbox community, especially this dude right here, had declared that the next gen handheld was going to be an exclusive Xbox portable. And at the time that I made this declaration, it was we didn't know, because obviously it's going to be launching with Steam OS. We didn't know whether or not there was going to be Windows 11. We didn't know whether or not xCloud was going to work on it. Well, that all changed this week, folks, when head of Xbox Phil Spencer tweeted about his visit to Valve and what it meant to Xbox players, big and small. Here is his exact tweet. Was at Valve Software this week talking with Scott, Eric, and Gabe about the Steam Deck. After having mine most of the week, I can say it's a really nice device. Games with me on the go, screen size, controls, all great. Playing Halo and Age feels good. xCloud works well. Congratulations, the SD team. Now, why this is a small but incredibly important statement, and I believe it's super relevant to the conversation, is because we now know it works great with xCloud from the head of Xbox. But more so, new information confirms that Valve is working with AMD and is aiming to make the Steam Deck handheld gaming PC ready for Windows 11 day one. And that is awesome. I'll start with Zemi on this. Now, Zemi, you pre-ordered it, but you were like, yeah, I don't know. It's an expensive, it's an expensive investment. Am I going to use it? I have my Switch. Are you encouraged by what Phil had to say, speaking specifically about how he's playing Halo on this thing and everything is working great? Are you going to still buy the Steam Deck when it releases in 22?
I do think it is encouraging, to see Phil Spencer, playing on the Steam Deck and reporting to us how well, the Xbox games and services, work on the device. But as far as me actually getting the machine, I still have it, pre-ordered, but really my overall opinions on it have really not changed all that much. And I'm still very much like up in the air, but I'm closer to not getting it than actually getting it. Just for me personally, how I like to play games, I just don't necessarily see the value in spending the amount of money for it. And I'm not really sold on, that a lot of, casual consumers are ultimately going to get it. I don't really know where I see this product in 3 years. And so for that, I'm probably not going to invest, at least not now, but I do have it pre-ordered still. So anything could happen. But what I find really, really interesting is, is Xbox, is Phil Spencer's ultimate interest in this device and playing Xbox games on it and so on and so forth. And, it kind of begs the question that we've been talking about several times on this show.
Yep, I know where you're going.
And that question is, should Xbox develop their own mobile device, or should they just continue to rely on open third-party platforms like the Steam Deck and mobile phones and tablets, right? I mean, because, let's just be honest that, this is a pricey machine, right? For the,
Yes. It's
you
pricey, dude.
It is pricey, right? And, so imagine Xbox making their own mobile system and possibly, selling it for $200, $300, right? A lot more affordable for their fan base that wants to play their games mobile and maybe doesn't exactly want to play on a smartphone. I think that mobile gaming on Xbox is still not perfect, right?
Right.
I don't think the smartphone is the greatest answer to Xbox's mobile gaming. I also don't think the Steam Deck is the ultimate solution either. I think it costs way too much money. So I'm really curious to see what Xbox's ultimate answer is for that, if they have one, right? So I think that really opens up the question of, should they develop their own mobile device, like what we've kind of been, talking about for a while now. Because I just don't, I think that a lot of people are going to buy the Steam Deck, right? I think a lot of early adopters have already got into it. I'm not sure how, the later groups, the early majority, the late majority, the laggards are going to adopt, this new product. But, I'm really, really curious to see what Xbox does on this front, because I'm not convinced that the Steam Deck is the best solution for someone who wants to play mobile games or Xbox games mobile.
You bring up a good point. I mean, listen, I think that the Steam Deck is going to be one of those items that is going to be exclusively purchased by the PC hardcore. I think people that have rigs that understand PC, like I'm getting into it because it's a handheld, so I'm jumping in, and it's a hefty investment. Let's call a spade, folks. This thing is going to be very expensive. I'm with you, man. We talked about this on this show numerous times. I think that because of Xbox Game Pass, because of xCloud, or Xbox Cloud Gaming, as they now call it. It almost behooves Microsoft to have their own device, right? To have a Switch-like device that's specifically for Xbox. Now, I mean, how would that work? Would it be xCloud exclusive? Would you be able to have digital titles from your console moved over to your handheld? How would that work? If they wouldn't have had the Connect 2.0 debacle, I would have said that we were probably in line for something like this. But I think that they have the two devices that they want, the two pieces of hardware. And if the reason why I don't see them doing this is because they give you this unbelievable amount of choices of where you could play your games. You can play it on a laptop. You can play it on your Surface. You can play it on a tablet. You can play it on your phone. Now, those are places that I probably would not play because I would just play on my nice, beautiful 65-inch TV that's sitting right next to me. On the go, though, I would prefer, because I've done the handheld with the controller attached, and I have one of the ones that you put the cell phone in. I'm not a fan of it. They all feel flimsy to me. I have big hands, and listen, I always feel like I'm going to break it. Pong, let's get your opinion on this. Phil getting out there and talking about this and saying, yeah, I got mine. I had mine for a week already. I'm loving it. I'm playing Halo. I'm playing all kinds of games. Where do you fall on the importance of him getting behind this? Are we gonna see some sort of a partnership between Valve and more so Steam and Xbox, maybe getting Xbox Game Pass onto Steam?
Yeah, I mean, I think I love it. I love how much contact and communication Uncle Phil and Uncle Gabe have right now, right? I think it's amazing that we've heard over the past couple of years that Phil's definitely been, talking to Gabe. We had those reports last year with Jeff Keighley on screen and all that kind of stuff. And now this, I think Phil simply is out here promoting another device that is going to give people access to xCloud and potentially Game Pass down the road. We've heard the talk that Gabe would really like Game Pass on Steam. Now, whether or not that's true, we won't know until it happens. But at the same time, the mere fact that they're talking this much, that Phil is out here promoting the Steam Deck, I think really shows that relationship is building. And I think that, again, anytime a new device comes on the market that is going to allow people to access the Xbox ecosystem, it's in Phil's best interest to be out in front and saying, hey, look, guys, I'm testing it right now. It's working great. This is awesome. This is another way that you can have, that you can play your Xbox games on the go, because I think that's ultimately what they're looking to do, which we know is a fact, that they're going after the mobile market. Whether it be from phones, tablets, or now the Steam Deck. I think that this is a huge deal. Do I think that eventually Microsoft would do their own? I don't know. I think there might come a time and point, maybe if Game Pass reaches, that 100 million, 200 million mark, and xCloud, the tech has caught up. There's a stronger infrastructure amongst the world when it comes to obviously internet access, and we've caught up to that point. I think that maybe down the road in the future, Microsoft may look at doing their own. But again, I said it before, if the relationship is strong with Steam Deck, there's nothing stopping, if it becomes popular enough and more people get interested in it, as the tech becomes cheaper, right? As these chips become cheaper, hopefully, we get caught back up with that. And as this drops in price, who's to say that they couldn't go, to Gabe, Phil could say, hey, what about an Xbox branded Steam Deck? It still does all the same stuff, but it's got the Xbox brand on it, and it just promotes Game Pass and xCloud, but you can still do all the other stuff with it. A lot of people would like that, to carry around an Xbox branded Steam Deck. So I think that's something that they would look towards first. And then again, like I said, as things move forward, maybe once they hit some really big milestones down the road, then Xbox looks at it and says, hey, if we can put out a handheld by that point that's nice and cheap, somewhere around the $200 mark, then maybe they go ahead and do that themselves. But I think at this point, I think they're going to let the third parties dictate the market. I think they're going to let more and more people enter that space. And anytime there's an open platform like Steam Deck is, they're just going to take advantage of that and promote it and say, hey, get your Xbox on the go here. Get your Xbox on the go here. Here's another opportunity for you to take your stuff where you want to. I think that's their main goal right now. And I think that's what Phil's doing here by, coming out and saying this about Steam Deck. It's exciting. No matter what, at the end of the day, I've always talked about this. We've always talked about this on so many different shows. The accessibility factor of being able to access whatever content that you have wherever you want to is the key to the future. And Phil just talked about that in the interview with Games Radar. That's what they're looking forward to. Again, in a yeah, I know. In a perfect world, right? In a perfect world, we'd all be able to access every single piece of our content, whether it's Nintendo content, whether it's Sony content, whether it's Xbox content, wherever we are, right? On whatever device we're using. That is the ultimate kumbaya moment where, everybody has that ability. Right now, is that possible? No. And Phil's realistic about it. But what they're going for is, again, as many different places, as many different people as possible. And I think that's what this is about.
Yeah, you know what? I think you're onto something with that, because it's just another place where someone could find Xbox Game Pass and the Xbox Game Pass platform. And again, if you the more of these devices that continue to come out, and obviously I don't know who's going to make another handheld portable outside of Steam, probably nobody. But when you tell your customers, or you tell a potential customer, Pong, hey, listen, you don't have to buy the $500 box if you don't want. If you don't want to spend $300, it's not a problem. $15 a month, you can play on your computer. You can play on your tablet, your phone. Oh, and if you have a Steam Deck, you can play it there. And people are like, wow. Do you know how many people I have converted over that didn't know what Xbox Game Pass was, and say, listen, they come over the house and you go to your library and you're like, oh, these new games just jumped in. What's that? Oh, it's Xbox Game Pass. But I'm saying, well, what is it? Well, it's like Netflix for games. Wait, hold on a sec. Does PlayStation have this? Nah, man. That's Xbox exclusive. It's their own thing. Oh, I got to get an Xbox. I bought this game. This game's in there. These games are in there. I just bought these games, right? And there you go. Someone's converted. Right. Let's get 3-Bit's opinion on this. 3-Bit, where do you fall on this? Now, obviously, you know the tech, because you are a designer by nature. It's your business. Besides being a gamer and besides being a podcaster, I'm not a tech guy. Right, so I'm not going to do all the bells and whistle things that people are going to probably do with the Steam Deck. I'm a simpleton like that. Like, just let me play, Halo Infinite on this thing, and we're okay. You know what I'm saying? Where do you feel on this? Should Microsoft try to reinvent the wheel and make their own handheld, or just simply team up with someone like Steam, let them do the R&D, and say, hey, Gabe, we're just going to put Game Pass on here. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I do agree with Zemi. It definitely is a pricey machine, but when you think about some of the things you can do with it, like, well, a lot of the tech people are like, oh, you can emulate games with it. That's where it kind of increases the value, at least for me. Being able to play some Switch games on there would be kind of cool. And I sort of go back and forth on whether or not I would buy it. Now that the hype has died down, I'm definitely going to get it, but probably a bit like later next year. Hopefully it'll be more readily available by then. It does sort of beg the question on whether or not Xbox needs a handheld device. If you think about all the different spaces Microsoft is in, they are attacking the PC market, the mobile market with xCloud, even the TV market a little bit with the Stream Stick coming soon, right? And this has always been the one thing they haven't done, especially as the other two competitors, Sony and Nintendo, they have dived into the handheld market, and Microsoft is the only one that hasn't yet. And maybe they will soon, but this is a way for them, like financially, it does seem to work out for Microsoft, being able to partner with someone like Steam, because you just have Valve invest into their device and then make sure it's very compatible and
Yep.
sort of a testing ground for them. They can see the numbers on how many people are willing to jump in on Game Pass through the Steam Deck. They can see, just basically how many people are going to jump in. Like, they're able to see that stuff. They're able to see how many people are playing these games on which device. And early on, we know Phil and Gabe have, and Pongsword talked about it, they've been in talks.
Yep.
They have a growing relationship, it seems. We had what Gabe talk about on that one interview where he's like, yeah, Xbox is my favorite, just stuff like that. You can sort of see something is happening there. And with the Steam Deck, this is, again, a good opportunity to just, if they did want to make their handheld device, let's see how it plays out, essentially. But yeah, this is just another market for Microsoft to tackle in their initial goal, as Pong also was saying, to grow Game Pass subscriptions. At the end of the day,
Yep.
that's what you should be asking: is does making a handheld device, would that grow their subscriber base, and would you need to make your own device to do that, or can you do it through someone else like a Steam Deck, and would that be like the same sort of numbers? So I guess we'll see. The Steam Deck is definitely impressive handheld device. It's pretty powerful for a handheld device. But yeah, well, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, and speaking of PC Master Race, look who has joined us. Kay
Don't do
Asante
that.
has joined
Don't
the
start
fray.
that narrative. Bad idea. Don't do.
Well, first of all, if you don't
You
know
have
who
to do
Kay
it,
Asante
gentlemen.
is, you're fired. Second of all,
Oh.
this is he is part, obviously, of Primetime Gaming. We had an amazing episode last night. Obviously, we had One Bad Mother from Xbox Era on. It was a great conversation. You came in a perfect time
Yes, I did.
because obviously you are part of the PC Master Race.
Not true, but continue.
Well,
I am a gamer, meaning I play games wherever they happen to be. But continue.
Well, you know what? Speaking of which, the deal that seems to have been struck between Xbox and Gabe Newell's Steam is people are starting to wonder if that's going to eventually lead to Xbox Game Pass being on Steam, right? But Phil was over there at Valve trying out his copy of the Steam Deck and said that he's been loving it. He had it for a week. He's enjoying it. Listen, one of the things that we saw Phil talk about that he was mocked by the interwebs was trying to find a way to reach the 3 billion gamers across the planet. And of course, we know how that ended for him. And obviously he was right. And all the people that mocked him were just knuckleheads and they were wrong. And this is another clear example of taking your wares and allowing it to be on other places for people to find your platform. And the Steam Deck, like I said, I think it's going to be one of those devices that the PC hardcore buy in abundance. I think you're going to have people like myself who don't have a big rig and who wants an Xbox handheld, because that's what I'm buying it for, but to play their games on. But this is one of those things that maybe someone who has a rig and is not invested in Xbox Game Pass goes out and buys this and says, wait a second, besides all of these emulated games I could play Halo Infinite on this. Oh, I'm in. And maybe that converts them to pay their $15 a month instead of going out and buying the console, which Microsoft doesn't want you to do. In the big picture of things, Kay Asante, they just want you to be a part of Xbox Game Pass. And this is another way for people to find the platform. What are your thoughts on the Steam Deck and Phil getting out there and talking about it?
No, I think you guys all of you have made perfect points, and you are all right. Those that think that it's not for the casual consumer, you're right. Those are excited about it, you're right. Those that think it might be trying to compete with the Nintendo other handheld that looks the same, you're right, but you're wrong, because they it's like they're tapping the vein, but they're not necessarily going there. Because they know if they go there, That's a whole different market that they have to address that they may not be ready to address, right? That market is all about the content, whereas this is about the actual device. They're so focused on the device, and they leave the content for the marketplace to sort out, right? And that's basically not the Switch consumer, right? The Switch consumer buys their device that has an SoC from 2015, and they still love it because the content's what matters to them, right? So this might not be for them, but everyone has made absolutely perfect points on it. I believe that, from my techie side of the house, I'm completely excited. Obviously, I pre-ordered one. But as has been noted on here, my use case will be, all of the above. To me, the Switch is the iPhone, where the Steam Deck is the Android device, where you can use it for more than it's capable of. It's there for you to, customize to your own liking, right? It can do a whole lot, and it's capable of a whole lot, but it's not ready for end user Joe gamer prime time, and it won't be. This is not for that, right? This is for, yes, the prosumers will grab it, they'll play with it. A lot of people will try and make it as their basically their mobile Steam device, right? Mobile extending of their device. Your Hollow Knights, if you will continue to play great in perpetuity on this thing forever, if you will, right? So all the while, they're also, as a 3-bit has expertly pointed out, they'll be capturing a lot of data from this thing. They keep saying, oh, you can install whatever you want, but they don't want you to install whatever you want. They want you to stay in the Steam Deck OS, so they can capture all this telemetry data. Are they coming for Nintendo? Eventually. That form factor was not done by accident. But is this the thing that's coming for them? I don't think so. I don't think so, because they know themselves that they have a lot to learn, and that's why they're capturing that data. And obviously, if you're trying to build a good handheld, even in the handheld market where there are other competitors, really expensive competitors, you only have so much you can do. So they all kind of look almost Switch-like, if you will. Obviously, they're much bigger because they have more components and this and that. Now, as far as does Microsoft need to build one themselves, I think they've been pretty good so far at deciding what they want to do, and I think somebody else pointed it out here on this panel as well. It's success by 1,000 cuts, if you will. They don't need that one, Halo device, that one device that you go to play your game. You want to play it on your phone? There's your phone. You want to play it on your TV eventually? All the TVs will come with a remote, with a controller, I suspect. It's anywhere you happen to be excited. They want to make sure they can interface with you there so that they can also be a part of that market for you, And can they build one? Of course they can. Will they? I would love them to, because I love their engineering department. I think they do great work, right? But from a business perspective, I don't know, because that's a lot of R&D that you have to spend in order to get to get where they've gotten, right? And this device seems like it kind of fulfills the purpose of mobile xCloud anyway. So why not just partner rather than going through all that R&D expenditure yourself? Now I'll say that and then double back and say they've done this in the past, and that's also kind of bitten them in the butt. You always want your partners to show off your best side, and that always doesn't go well for you. I'm looking at you there, Yakuza, when it first came out. Things like that. It would have been better if they themselves did that rather than having a partner do that for them. But in this case, since there's so many other avenues for you to get to Game Pass and get to Xbox versions of their games, I think this is just, this is Phil signaling, hey, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. This too can be your mobile Game Pass device if you so choose. That's what I think is going on here. You sound muted, sir.
That's why I'm buying it. I'm there.
Yeah, and I'll let you know real quick there, Boom. I understand there's some deep waters you swim in. But we'll help you through. Don't worry about it. It's going to be so much fun. I can't wait.
Well, I definitely appreciate getting the love. And speaking of love, see, this is a great compliment. King One Supreme drops a $5 super chat. Now, I normally will kind of pull back on reading something because you don't want to. My panel members are my brothers, right? They're extended my family, so you never want. But he's just kidding, and this is what he says. This is a compliment for you, 3-bit. I love it. He says, "Why does 3-bit look like the dude on the box for those texturing kits sold at a beauty shop, so beauty supply shops?" And you know why it is? Because that is a good-looking young man right there that probably has girls flocking to him, and that is why he got the goatee going, he got the tight cut going, and that's why I read it, because he says, "Just kidding, it's all love." But yeah, I mean,
that was hilarious.
That is funny.
You're gonna make black men blush on TV. Stop that.
How do you like them apples? I don't understand it. But listen, folks, we're gonna get into what I like to call the skinny. Folks, now we're gonna get real. We've had our fun. It just so happens that Kay Asante is going to be a part of this conversation. And, we got to talk about this because Phil Spencer sat down for an interview, one of many he's done. And once again, the gaming media has taken it upon themselves to twist Papa Phil's words and keeping Phil Dominus Maximus Aurelius Spencer in the conversation. He sat down, the interview I was just telling you about, which we know that he does, and it's always very honest. It's always very candid, right? And he sat down with Games Radar. And Phil had a ton to say about player enjoyment, growing the games industry, and specifically discussing PlayStation and Nintendo's ecosystems. Now, the article is extremely well written, and it's so well written, and it was done with class. Zero problems with the article. The interview was very well done. I'm going to have it in the show notes if you want to read it yourself. At the end of the show, I'm going to add it. But there was literally so much information that we could not cover it on this show. As a matter of fact, it could logistically be a 3-hour podcast on its own, because he talked about everything from both Sony and Nintendo not wanting Xbox Game Pass on their platform. And that makes sense because it would devalue what they're doing. Sony is charging you $70 for HD versions of games that we should get for free, that we do get for with smart delivery. Nintendo is always going to be Nintendo. They're going to figure a way to make an old game new again and charge you $60, and I'll buy it because I'm a knucklehead and I know I'm part of the problem. But I think this is why they don't want Xbox Game Pass on their platform, because it devalues their own. And that's fine. I think that's perfectly fine. But that's not what we're here to talking about. What we're here to talk about today is the way many outlets ran with the, once again, talk of how they tried to twist Phil's explanation into AAA story-driven single-player experience, and how they're not coming to Xbox. We know that's a lie. We know that these titles are built for clickbait to get people in there. So it's definitely a part of the Xbox hate culture that is currently running rampant, even when Microsoft does great. And they have been doing so good in the last 12, 18, 24 months. It has been an unbelievable turn on how well they are handling the platform, how the fan base is looking at the future of the box and the platform itself, where we could play the games, the value of Xbox Game Pass, teaming up with Gabe Newell to bring to have xCloud work day and date on a handheld. It's just one win after another, and somehow, some way, it always has to turn into negativity when it's Xbox. With all the F-ups that we have seen PlayStation doing, and there's been quite a few of them, you barely see anyone write about it. No one ever comes to the writes and says, yeah, Sony sucks because they're doing this and it's unfair for the gamers and this, that, and the third. You'd never see that. And Nintendo, well, I'm a Nintendo apologist, so we know what happens with Nintendo. They get the pow-pow in the hand, and after that, the next day, they're the kings again. Well, here is the first of all, the man that did the interview, that wrote the article from Games Radar. His name is Keith Stewart. And this is how I'm reading verbatim from the article, and I'm going to read you exactly what Phil had to say, and then we're going to break down what has been said about what Phil talked about. And this is coming directly from Keith Stewart. He says this: "It's interesting that throughout our conversation, Spencer doesn't talk about competition with other consoles, although he got a sly dig in about Sony PlayStation's strategy during E3. His focus is clearly on converting non-gamers into gamers rather than shifting the current user base from one machine to another. When I ask, for example, about the lack of epic, self-contained single-player games on Xbox, he knows straight away what I am referencing. Sony's recent success with titles such as Spider-Man, The Last of and The Last of Us 2, he's not having any of it. This is what Phil had to say. Our strategy is not to just go and be like someone else. I get a push sometimes of where's your version of this or that game. I've been in this industry for a long time. I have a ton of respect for creators on all platforms, and I know many, many of them. But it's good if we're doing something different than what other platforms are doing. We're not in the business of trying to create a green version of someone else's blue or red colored platform. That's not the example of creativity that I want to see in the games industry. Now, I'll say this. As a content creator, folks, who always looks for the real angle in any story, in no way, shape, or form should there be ever, at least in my business, or at least in Double Barrel Gaming, will I attempt to garner clicks and views by twisting someone's words. And that does not just Phil. That goes for Sony. That goes for Nintendo. And when they make a mistake, and I think people who've been following the channel for a while understand that I will call them out on it. I don't harp on it. I bring information to the conversation, and I always do my research. But I'll say this. I find it so frustrating when the spoken truth is twisted into something that is leaps and bounds away from what he was saying. And what I exactly mean by that is within the games media and social spaces like Twitter, somehow what Phil said in that paragraph that I just read live on the air was turned into Xbox will not make AAA single player experiences like PlayStation. Well, look, I mean, I don't have to read this, but I wrote it, so I'm going to read it anyway. We know that with the announced projects like Fable, Perfect Dark, Hellblade 2, Senua's Saga, Compulsion Games, BioShock meets Uncharted type of third-person over-the-shoulder game, 2 projects from the Coalition that includes Gear 6 and a smaller unnamed title. There are plenty of those types of experiences coming, and Xbox is doing it their own way. And when you add to the conversation of the 3 big ones for 2021, Halo Infinite, Forza Horizon 5, Psychonauts 2, along with what we know the other 23 studios are doing that are other genres. Like, I don't even understand how anyone could say that Phil was referencing that we're not getting single player story-driven games like Sony. I didn't read that, but I want to bring Keosante into the conversation. I don't know how much time you have, Keosante. Where do you fall with what Phil had to say and how many, I'm talking like WCCF Tech. I like those guys over there. They wrote an article, a title that made me almost fall out of my chair. And they had, of course, they took it down because they got a lot of backlash for it. They changed the whole story. They changed the whole article. It's back up and looks totally different. And I understand this is the business, Keosante. You know, something happens, you got to get it out there, and you want people to click on your site because, you know, it's the interwebs and there's a lot of places to get news. But man, to stoop to that low, to turn an incredible article, and like I said, please, folks, read this article. You got to hear Phil talk about the how he wants to see the industry grow. It's astounding that he doesn't get more credit than he does. Where do you fall with what Phil had to say as opposed to what the gaming media, more specifically the social spaces, were saying about PlayStation, Xbox not having PlayStation level games?
So this is a very cyclical thing that I've seen happen with him specifically. I've also seen it with PlayStation more recently, but with him, it's been pretty consistent for quite some time now. Every time he has an interview, people want to talk to him about what the other guy is doing that he should be doing. Yeah. Every time. I mean, you know, and obviously it's to be expected. CEO, head of the competitor brand, right? And it's the horse race. You know, why don't you taste more like McDonald's, Burger King? You know, it is what it is, right? So that's always going to happen every time he shows up. But I think I've said this on your air before. I've seen him field this type of question so much that I can tell when he's getting frustrated. And I could tell that he's getting, I mean, he's done it on IGN, he's done it on so many different places. And it's basically like, why do y'all keep doing this to me? Let's focus on what we're doing. You know, that's basically the vibe I get. And if you read the details of this, the quote he said, it's exactly the same. You know, why do we have to be like others? Because remember who he's speaking to here. And a lot of folks have made that very valid point throughout the discourse of this specific conversation. Remember who he's speaking to. If when he answered that question, he said, yep, we have this game, that game, this game, and that game in the pipeline. Don't worry, they're coming. Then basically the headline is, well, Phil Spencer knows that PlayStation's method is the way, so they're planning on duplicating the PlayStation method, which he doesn't want to have said, right? If he focuses, if he in any way, shape, or form gives off the sense that his platform is less than the competing platform that's being talked about, then all of a sudden he's got investors looking at him sideways like, well, if that platform is the platform, then why don't you just put your games there and call it a day? He's speaking to a lot of people, not just to the gamer, right? And those of us that are the gamers, we should have a better understanding of all of this rather than jumping up and screaming every time something like this happens. He has 23 plus studios, and all those studios have multiple teams. This is the Netflix of games. When has Netflix ever come out and said, well, from now on, all we're making superhero games, movies? Not possible. So many, that service is built on content, right? And the diversity of content. We've already seen them historically just be content after content, and it's always different things. For adults, for kids, different genres, this and that, right? So when he's speaking, he's talking about diversifying himself in the marketplace. That's what he's talking about. And anyone who spends a little time understanding it will get that, you know. They don't want to be like everyone else. They want to be themselves. But of course, because right now, PlayStation is running at such a high clip in that specific area of third-person, over-the-shoulder, cinematic, what some called bad daddy games, you know, that's what they're good at. So every time anybody sees Phil Spencer, the first question is, when you making a bad daddy game, you know, in those kind of words. And let's be real, he's making that game. Maybe not specifically the bad daddy part, but you know, we've seen their internal review of The Last of Us Part 2. We've seen their glowing reviews every time these guys release a game and make such a hit. You saw Phil Spencer come out when Ghost of Tsushima became such a monstrous hit. He was tweeting about it, and they're talking about congratulations to the team. They see what the standard of quality is, right? They've seen it. They themselves have even reviewed the competitor and have said that this is the standard of quality. So after that has all been established, how is it that the moment that you hear somebody go, look, we don't want to be like everybody else, the question goes, oh no, they're not going to make quality games. Like, that's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It makes no sense. And it seems to me, real quick before I'll give up this mic, it seems to me that that all that debate that was happening over the weekend and elsewhere, you know what it is. It's exactly like, and I'm not going to open this can of worms. It's exactly like the debate they're having right now about Outriders. You know, the information's out there. It's very clear. It's very concise. But if you want to twist it for your narrative, it's also available for you to do so. It's up to you, the normal non-warrior public, to not be drawn in by said skewing of the truth. That's all there is to it.
No, I mean, and you know, to your point with Outriders, does it matter how they got that game? Does it?
Well, the point even with Outriders specifically is that Forbes has already come out like many times, and there's a full report that says that game was a hit, complete hit. Now there's a report saying that the publisher didn't get any money. Yeah, publisher, go talk to developer, go talk to publisher. That has nothing to do with Game Pass, right?
Yes.
Square and People Can Fly need to have a conversation. That's what this is about. Not, oh, well, Game Pass made it so that this thing made no money, which is what's flying right now. Has nothing to do with Game Pass.
Again, when I could have used it. I don't like negativity, folks. Obviously, I'm always smiling, right? So for me to have one negative story after another, that's why it's not here. I would have had it on Thursday, but Mrs. Boom and I are chilling for the rest of the week, so no new shows. I'll be back.
Yeah,
Monday.
I apologize to bring another negative one to you.
No. I'm glad you did, but
it just speaks to that one idea, right? The folks just the news comes out, they pick the narrative, they go, okay, well, this is where we want it to go, so let's make sure we line the pieces to make it go there, and that's what's happening right now. You know, those who know better, those who do some reading, don't fall for it. That's all there is to it.
Look, all I can say is that we have heard numerous times that Outriders was unbelievably successful because it was an Xbox Game Pass. That's a fact. That's not even my opinion, folks. That is an absolute fact. Real quick, I gotta thank Cal Tattoo with the outstanding 20-pound super chat. Wow. He says, hey, Boom, I hope you're well, dude. Keep up the good work. Best podcast. Much love. Well, thank you so much. And I'm assuming that you have tattoos, and I have a few. I don't show them off very often. These are some of my. Let's see if I can get some in the camera. You don't really see them that well. This one has a lot of color. This one has a lot of color. You can see right there. They're super old. You know what? Here's the thing with tattoos. I got this when I was a kid, and I get one's a demon, one's like something from D&D. I would have definitely gotten something gaming related if the much older, the much wiser 50-year-old Boomstick. But they are what they are. They're 25 plus years old, and they're going to stay right where they are. But thank you for this. Thank you for the super chat, brother. Pong, let's get your opinion on this. This is another one of those situations that kind of make you. For me, I get dejected when I see stuff like this. Not because the $2 trillion company needs a little Boomstick to defend them, right? But as a content creator who specifically does the work, who enjoys writing these show notes, which are ridiculous, by the way. It is frustrating to see, no matter what Phil seems to do, no matter what righteous path he walks, and how everyone matters to him, whether you're a PlayStation gamer, whether you're a PC gamer, it all matters, right? Why do we continue to see these types of stories and his words being twisted? It's unbelievable.
Because it drives the numbers. Boom. That's what it's all about nowadays. This is what journalism, unfortunately, has turned into for the most part. Again, there's some good out there, but there's a whole lot of bad. And Phil is the easiest guy because he is the most obviously out there CEO of a major gaming company, whereas the rest of them kind of hide. Phil is very upfront, and Phil will do any interview. It seems like anybody who asks him pretty much gets access to him, and they can ask him all these questions in multiple different ways, however they want to. Again, shout out to Games Radar. Like you said, Boom, in the beginning, very fair interview.
Yes.
Very well written article. Absolutely 100%. They ran with a very factual headline. They did not try to clickbait it at all. It was other outlets like WCCF Tech. Again, an outlet that I have enjoyed many of their articles on, and I was very disappointed by seeing what they did. That is a problem nowadays. Unfortunately, that's what drives the numbers. So they do this knowing full well what they're going to get when they do something like that. And again, for the people that want to run with it, the people that choose not to read the article, or the people that choose to read the article, ignore the article, and then go ahead and just run with the headline again to get these talking points. Again, you are either intellectually dishonest or you're willfully ignorant. That's what it comes down to nowadays. Yeah. All this information is out there. He has done so many different interviews. And if you want to twist his words to create a talking point for your show, for your article, whatever the case may be, that is on you. And it is dishonest to do so. Again, Phil just being the most visual of all of the gaming companies' heads just makes this the easiest target, makes him a target on top of the problems that obviously Xbox has previously had from the previous generation. This is still carryover from that, and people still want to try to somehow bring down Xbox or continue to bash Xbox even when they are now doing very, very well for themselves. Again, I think everybody, between yourself and Kay Asante, you covered it pretty well. When you go read this article, Phil laid it out clearly. There is no even finding wiggle room in there as to what he was saying to try to twist it, in my opinion, because he flat out was just saying, look, we're not just going to go have our devs talk to one of our devs, tell them, hey, you guys got to make an Uncharted, just reskin it. That's not what Phil wants, and that's not what he's looking for. Like Asante said, with 23 devs now, the freedom that they have is vital to what Microsoft is doing, what Xbox is doing with Game Pass. You have to have a diversity of games. Yes, would it be fantastic to have a third-person narrative-driven action-adventure game? Yes, of course it would, but they're coming. Okay, we already know they are. Hellblade 2 has the potential to be a fantastic version of that, but it is still going to be Ninja Theory's vision. It is not going to be based upon anybody else's vision or because you're chasing a trend in what Sony has been doing. That's not the way to go about doing business, especially when you're coming from a position of power. And right now, Xbox is now, at this point in time, in a position of power because of all the work they've done up to this point to turn around the entire division and to make it something special. And the only way you keep that special is to keep doing what you are doing and what you do well. And don't try to go outside of that unless a dev comes to you and says, hey, we got this great idea. This is what it's going to be. And it so happens to be a third party or a third person narrative driven action adventure game. Well, great. Let them go do it. It's their vision. Let them do that stuff. But again, if you try to force a square peg into a round hole, it's not going to end well for you. So I just don't have any idea how people ran with this other than, again, intellectual dishonesty or willful ignorance. It's one of those two at this point. And again, I've spoken out about it many times. Steele and I have spoken out about it. We've spoken out about it here multiple times. It's just a running kind of joke at this point that, when Phil has an interview, the clock starts ticking until that clickbait article comes out, or until there's 5 podcasts running with some crazy narrative that Phil never once said, but somehow they forced it in there and said, oh yeah, no, he meant this. No, that's not what he meant. And like Kay Asante said, when Phil does come out and speak, he's not just speaking to gamers directly. He is speaking to a wide range of people because as head of Xbox, there are more considerations at play than just the gamers all the time. And when he does speak, well that he has thought about where he is going with his thoughts, because he needs to consider a lot more people than just us as gamers. And that's what this is about. So he speaks in a lot of generalities. He speaks in very broad terms, as he should, because he is the head. He is not down on the ground in the dirt all the time. He is kind of up above it, and you kind of have to have that mentality in his position. So again, read the article. Anybody wants to go read that. There was a lot of good nuggets in that Games Radar article. Unfortunately, a lot of it got lost because of all this. But there was a lot of good nuggets in there. He talked about a lot of great things coming down the road and his vision. Again, I alluded to it earlier when I was talking. He talked about, he still has the vision that there should not be exclusivity. And a lot of people made fun of him for that and said Kumbaya Phil, and a lot of people twisted that and used that to try to say that ZeniMax, all of ZeniMax games weren't going to be exclusive because Phil doesn't want exclusivity. No, that's still not what he's saying to this day. Phil wants that reality, like I was talking about, where everybody has access to their content everywhere. But Phil also understands this is a business. And Phil understands that to do business in here, you have to control some of that. And he understands that Game Pass and xCloud are the vehicles, the platform that can make that happen as long as other people are willing to accept it. And in that article, he talked about Nintendo and PlayStation not willing to accept Game Pass. We've talked about that many times here too. That's fine. That's fine. That's what he's saying. But the funny part is he said that's not a dead end. He said that's not a dead end. He just said right now for those different companies, it just doesn't make sense. But he says it's not a dead end. You see, he's thinking 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, the long play, eventually he knows he can make it so that these companies want Game Pass.
Yeah.
And that's what he's thinking about. So again, go read the article. Great article. It's unfortunate this happened again. But it's going to continue to happen. Phil's got to know it. A lot of people have told Phil to stop doing interviews so much, stop talking so much. No, I don't agree with that at all.
I'm right with you.
You continue to go do what you do, Phil, because you do it well, and the real people out there will recognize really what's happening. And now we've seen kind of the backlash that caused WCCF Tech to pull down their article.
Yes.
That will get more and more vocal as Xbox grows in popularity, and more people appreciate what Phil is doing by getting out in front of the microphone and talking to everybody involved. And I think you're going to see more and more of that backlash. If somebody does try to twist his words, there's going to be a defense force out there saying, knock it off. This is not what he said. Stop this stuff. This is nonsense. So I think it's good for him.
Yeah. Now, real quick, Zemi, before I get to you, I have a good point for Zemi. Cal Tattoo drops an additional £5 super chat, and he says, "Nice. Well, if you're ever in the UK, I'll tattoo you. I will take you up on that, brother. If I ever travel overseas to the other side of the pond, believe you me, I will be giving you a ring." Raiden Blade drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, "It drives the numbers, and he is the only one talking." I mean, you're onto something there, Raiden Blade, because I'm with Pong. Don't stop doing these interviews, because no one from Nintendo was talking, and certainly no one from Sony is talking. So yeah, get out there and pimp your wares. But Zemi, here's a question I have for you.
Yeah.
When you look at the future of the platform, on what they are working on right now, and that we start hearing the rebel rousers of the community, and of course the gaming media, talk about, well, Xbox doesn't have any PlayStation-like games. All I can say is that you're a knucklehead if that's what you believe. I'll call it like that, because let's just take into account what Playground Games has been doing the last couple of weeks. Every week they're dropping more gameplay on what seems to be the most detailed racer in the history of detailed racers, right? And what's crazy is that's the old tech that they're using. That's not even the new tech they're going to use for Fable. When Fable releases, you're going to get that AAA bomb quality PlayStation title. When Avowed is released, when Senua's Saga is released, I mean, when Perfect Dark is released, when Gears 6 is released, all of these narrative-driven single-player types of titles with incredible graphics and tremendous amount of money spent to make these games. I don't understand how anyone, even if you are a hater of Xbox, could go out there and publicly embarrass yourself and suggest that somehow Xbox is not going to have these experiences. It doesn't make any sense. And what makes less sense is a lot of these avenues, or these WCCF techs and such, trying to twist these words from Phil. Where do you fall on what Phil said and what was put out there for everyone to read?
Yeah, well, I think first off, I have to say that Boom, I am never riding in a car with you. Never am I going to ever ride into it.
Well, I don't have rewind in real life. Listen, that's the police. That's the police officer me. When you got to get somewhere, you got to get somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was watching the gameplay, and you were kind of like, almost in the water. Like, I mean, goodness, kind of scared me a little bit. Back on topic, though. I think anyone that thinks that Xbox isn't going to make games, some games, not all games, but some games that are similar to what PlayStation puts out, to what Nintendo puts out, anyone that thinks that they're not going to do that are very, very misinformed, right? And they clearly have no idea of how business is done. Obviously, Xbox is, of course, going to make games that are similar to what PlayStation does with their, third-person, adult-driven, over-the-shoulder, single-player narrative games. And, of course, they're also going to do games that are similar to what, Nintendo prominently does, which are, games that are kind of focused towards a younger audience, right? that's not all that they're going to do. And of course, that can't be all that they're going to do, because they're building the Netflix of gaming. Dare I say that they have built the Netflix of gaming. And just like with all other services, you need variety to keep your subscribers happy and to encourage new subscribers to adopt the service, right? So that's, of course, not all that they're going to do. But, there is a demand for single player games. Xbox knows this. There's a demand for child friendly games. Xbox knows this. And so, of course, that's going to be included into the types of games that they make, right? If a consumer wants a product, a company is going to do what they need to do to make that product. If people liked eating turds, somebody would be packaging turds and selling them at 7-Eleven, right? It's just the way things are. People want a product. Xbox understands. So, of course, the big issue of this is, isn't necessarily Xbox's strategy. I think most people understand Xbox's strategy that, follow, the company like everyone on the panel has, right? The biggest problem is tribal journalism, right? Which is something that, I wrote about a little bit in an article probably a year ago. And it's the idea that journalism is not 100% authentic and objective anymore. There's a lot of subjectivity that comes in. A lot of journalists push their personal narratives and their personal beliefs as facts, right? And that's really the tragedy of it, right? People twist words, right? And it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're Phil Spencer. It doesn't matter if you're Boom or Zemi or Pong Soul or anyone on a podcast or whatever. People are always going to twist your words, right? Because it's going to make what they have to say sound better, or it's going to garner them more clicks, more views, more money. That's really the biggest problem here, is that, every time Phil opens his mouth, people always, take those words, twist them around and try to make it sound better to push their own personal agenda, right? Or to, confirm their, preconceived notions of what is. And that's really the biggest problem here. I think everyone so far, Pong knocked it out of the park. Keasante, knocked it out of the park. Whenever Phil is doing one of these interviews, absolutely, he's not just talking to journalists. He's not just talking to consumers. He's talking to shareholders. He's also talking to employees that work at Microsoft, right? The audience may, seem like he's just talking to consumers, but there's so many different interested parties that really care about what Phil Spencer says, and more importantly, how he says what he says. So much good stuff has came from, everyone that's already spoke. But I think really the primary thing to remember here is that, Xbox is trying to capture 3 billion, users, right? Like that's, that seems to be their goal. They want to grow Xbox Game Pass, and just like with any other service, they need variety. So of course, Phil Spencer is going to make games similar to what we see on PlayStation and Nintendo and other platforms, but that's not everything that's going to get made, right?
Yeah.
And I obviously, I think tribal journalism is rampant in the industry and everywhere, right? It's a shame. It's terrible. It's terrible that people want to take your words and twist them around to support their own narratives. But that's just the way that the world is, right? And it doesn't really seem to be changing anytime soon. So long as, there are people that are, coming out and challenging, falsities and news, I think that's probably the best that we can hope for, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Great points as always, Zemi. But you know what? I got a question for 3-Bit. And this is one that we don't see enough of. There are so many outlets, there are so many people on social media, pardon me, that want Xbox to be like PlayStation. Have we ever seen an article of how come PlayStation can't be more like Xbox? Like, how come they can't offer their users more than the over-the-shoulder third-person story game? See, because I'm not going to front here. Ghost of Tsushima was my game of the year. I talk about PlayStation's third-party stuff. It's why I own a PlayStation 5. I don't own it for anything else. I don't own it for the indies. Now, if there's a good indie that I can't get on Xbox, of course I will buy it there. But for the most part, it is a single-player, story-driven machine that only plays PlayStation exclusives. But on Xbox, there are genres and games, both big and small, from single man to quadruple A bomb, and we get most of those in Xbox Game Pass. So the question I say is, to you, 3-bit, hearing what people are saying about Phil and twisting his words, how about asking the question, how come Sony doesn't become more like Microsoft and put their customers first?
I mean, if you really want to step outside and look at the facts and you're comparing platforms, which is what these people tend to do, fact is there are more first party releases coming on the Xbox side of things, and there's a ton of variety within their pipeline. And in order for Game Pass to be successful, you have to have a catalog of just different options. It doesn't mean they aren't trying to make AAA games, or they are not trying to make third person action adventure games, which is what people seem to think about when they are thinking about some of Phil's comments. They're thinking of the third person action adventure games that Sony sort of makes. And it's not that they're trying not to make those things. We're unfortunately in the position, based on from last generation, where they are starting to build, and we're seeing some of the ramifications of that with Bethesda and all these other things with Game Pass. And I mean, you can sort of twist that around. Boom. You could kind of say, hey, I'd like to see personally more first person multiplayer titles, more RPGs on Sony's side of things. And when Phil is saying like we are staying in our own lane and not trying to necessarily copy Sony has their own DNA and methods for how they create their games, how they release their games, and some of them are incredible. And but they are staying in their own lane. Microsoft has their own vision for how they do things. That was Phil's point, and he keeps having to reiterate that in different ways, as Sante was saying. And currently they are killing the market with FPS games, RPG games, like literally the whole ZeniMax catalog, right, is just different types of RPG genres. We have Fable, which is like also a third person sort of RPG, Outer Worlds, and now they're getting more platforming games. Now that they have Double Fine, so they have like a pretty good variety there. And when you step back and look at Microsoft's first party lineups, its diversity, it's pretty amazing. But I've seen so many people attacking what Phil said and use it as an excuse, saying that, look, this is proof that Microsoft's not trying to make AAA games due to Game Pass, or look at what happened with Scalebound. People are using examples. Scalebound was 5 years ago, right, when Game Pass didn't even really become a thing. And they didn't have all these studios. And if you really want to look at it, you look at Phil's messaging, it's always been focusing on their brand, and especially if you read the entire article, because people tend to take things out of context as well. You always have to read the entire article, because whenever Phil says things, people react very, it's like they tend to react usually negatively. And then he clarifies what he means, and then people are still confused, like, oh, what did he mean, so if anything, the whole thing with Microsoft is they are building, and they are continuously building, and they are kind of a threat. And we've mentioned this before, but there's a reason why they said their biggest competitors were big corporations like Google and them, because they are in another league, and they are capable of basically building and buying billion-dollar companies, and just continuously, if they want to buy whole studios, they can do that financially. Yep. and still be okay.
Yeah.
So those games are coming. The whole thing with Game Pass is variety. You have to survive. When you watch Netflix, you have romantic movies, you have sci-fi. It's the same thing with Game Pass. You have already, based on what they announced at E3 and some of the games that have been coming out recently, there's variety there, right? There's no only this genre of games. There is Flight Sim, there's Ascent, there's a lot of other games coming up the pipeline. So I would just say, for those people, just wait it out. Every company is going at their own pace, their own vision, their own road for what they want. Sony is very much focused on having their audience and maintaining that audience by building on what they love, which is those story-based third-person exclusive action games, right? And then Microsoft's going a different route. It was like, okay, let me open up our platforms to PC, to Xbox, now mobile, and let's use some of our studios, let them do their thing. Because I know people want Rare to like, oh, go back to your old games. They're focusing on their own, new games, their own DNA as a studio. They're focused on Sea of Thieves and Everwild. I think it's called. Is it Everwild?
Yes, Everwild. Yes.
Yeah. So they're going in their own lane, and you can join in for the ride if you desire. But that's literally it. I think a lot of people were definitely taking that out of context. But yeah, that's all I got to say.
Let me add this. Let me just add this to what 3-Bit was saying, because 3-Bit had a couple of good thoughts in there as far as when he's talking about Sony. Don't believe for a minute that Microsoft now isn't influencing. Xbox is now influencing Sony. Yes. So as much as these articles are being written about, well, hey, Xbox needs this one type of game, right? Sony is now, we've saw with some of their partnerships that they're now doing, some of these new studios that they're funding, that kind of stuff. And we've heard some smoke around that they are now looking at diversifying their portfolio. They got kind of a free pass last generation with the stumbles that Xbox had. And they developed a certain genre, a certain type of game that did very well for them and will continue to do well for them. But as they look to the future, as they look to what their business model is going to be down the road, Xbox is now influencing Sony. Sony now realizes they have a diversity problem when it comes to games outside of their first party. Right. And they are now trying to fix that as well. So it's not just about Xbox finding this one genre, right? Or this one type of game that everybody seems to love, obviously, for all the right reasons. But they also, on the other side, Sony now has a problem where they are missing a ton from their first party catalog. And Xbox is absolutely killing it in all those other fields with all these studios they now have. And we can start to see Sony, if they are going to try to attempt to have any type of business model where engagement is the real metric nowadays. And everybody talks about it. And some of the Sony heads have come out in the past and said, engagement is one of the new key factors. Yeah. Well, if they're going to do that, they have to look to diversify more like Xbox than Xbox has to towards Sony, right? So Xbox has only got one thing that they're looking for, which is coming down the road because they've already got the studios working on them, but Sony is missing a lot. And I think that's where we're going to see that change. So Xbox is actually going to be the one influencing Sony from this point forward.
No, great point. I mean, what could you say? Everyone had incredible points. Folks, I got to just catch up on some of the super chats. We're going to get to the 12 minutes topic because I'm very excited. I know that's a topic that Zemi Games cannot wait to talk about. I specifically wrote the topic for him because obviously this Thursday we're going to be playing 12 minutes. And my God, it looks like it's going to be one of those gems that you play multiple times because it's good. There's multiple ways to that you can experience the story. I can't wait to play it. But Raiden Blade drops an additional 10-pound super chat and says, one of these days, Phil Spencer will make a statement that the next time he is deliberately misquoted, Microsoft lawyers will be in contact with your solicitors. I love it. That's great. And probably true. We had another super chat come in from our good friend, generous friend of the show, Bunty, drops a $10 super chat and says, what's up, Boom? Just here to show my support. I'm already always here, even though sometimes I'm not checking you out live, but I'm still here for you. One of the best YouTube, one of the best on YouTube, Mr. Boom. Thank you, sir. Well, no, thank you for the incredible compliment, but more so the generosity. Now, folks, what could we say about 12 minutes? Now, when I say 12 minutes is a banger, Joe, if you're listening, you're either cringing or I owe you another $5, right? If I say that 12 minutes is a game that you need to play, you're like, well, I trust Mr. Boomstick. I'll give it a shot. But it's when I think that when Hideo Kojima on his official Twitter page retweets Annapurna Interactive's 12 minutes advertisement, and it gives a thumbs up, 4 rocket ships, and a double heart emoji. I think we're on to something here, because obviously, you said something. I think you said it, Zemi. This looks like the type of game it would be for Hideo Kojima, and he's out there. He's one of the first big wigs in the industry to say this is something special. Now, I think we all kind of knew that, but seeing that come to fruition right in front of us, where on his official Twitter, he's out there talking about the game, that's a big deal. That's a big deal for the one man that made this game. And I think this is going to be a real winner, not only for him, but I think it's going to be a real winner for Microsoft. But at the end of the year, during the Game Awards, which we talked about last night, Zemi Games, where do you fall? Has your excitement levels grown since the last time we talked, knowing that 12 minutes not only was on the Kind of Funny Gamecast and showed very well, they played the first 12 minutes, ironically, but the game is coming out this week, this Thursday. Are you going to be staying up late Wednesday night after watching potentially What If, which I'm going to be doing? If you're not watching that, shame on you. But are you going to be playing 12 minutes, sir?
Yeah, I am. Should we just end it there? I'm going to be there. No, I'm so excited. And what I said about Kojima, like, retweeting the game and stuff like that, wasn't that I think it's a game that he would make necessarily, but I think it's a game that he would really, really be into, because the story of 12 minutes seems like it should be a movie. Like, honestly, like, there's a lot of games come out and their stories are fantastic, but, sometimes I find it, would be really, really difficult to transition the story of, a video game into a movie. Whereas 12 minutes, like, it really seems like, it has the story that could easily be incorporated into a movie. And maybe I'm just saying that because of the phenomenal voice acting, the voice actors. But, overall, when I first saw this game at E3 2019, we did a show right after it. And what did I say? I think I said that was like my game of the show, right? Like, out of all the games, like, if I could only have one of them and all of them you got then erased, it would be 12 minutes. I would want that game. I was absolutely in love with that game, and I still am. It is by far my most anticipated game for this year. And, dare I say that it is quite possibly already my game of the year, and I haven't even played it yet. I absolutely love the story of this game, with it being that Groundhog Day, like, a 12-minute time loop sci-fi thriller. It really, really pulls me in. The voice acting and the sound design are absolutely amazing. I mean, William Dafoe, Daisy Ridley, and James McAvoy. Those are big names in the movie industry, right? And just the fact that they were able to get that cast to voice in this game is phenomenal. I've never seen a game like this. Like, I have never. I'm not saying that they've never made a game like this, but if they have, I've never seen it. And I, for sure am going to say that this game is 100% a banger. Like, I cannot wait for this. I would probably say I am as excited as a kid who goes to a candy store on the day before Christmas. Like, that's how excited I am for this. I cannot wait. I will be there as soon as it, drops, downloading it, playing it 100%, getting all the achievements, trying to find every single, possibility of how this game could work out, because, like, the game is like all about, exploration and repetition and the same 12 minutes. And I'm going to be doing everything. I'm going to be trying, what happens if I do dessert first? What happens if I try to beat up the cop? What happens if I throw my wife out the window? I don't know if any of those are really going to be options, but I'm going to try every single option I can find in that game. 100% it. I'm so excited.
Yeah, that game is one of those small experiences that is going to leave a huge mark on the industry. I again, this was made by one person. And it's this journey for him. If you listen to the games cast, was 6 years. long, and he didn't even know how to program. He had friends tell him, you probably should learn how to program. He just, on the weekends learned how to program, and here you are. And obviously, Annapurna. What could you say negatively about them? They seem to be. They're one of these publishers that just seem to pick the winners, right? They go out of their way and they pick the winners. Kay Asante, let's bring you in on the conversation of 12 minutes. This is another game in Xbox Game Pass day and date. This month outside of what we've already gotten, which has been ridiculous, to be honest. You still got Psychonauts 2 coming, Game of the Year contender, and now this, which 12 minutes potentially looks like one of those games that we're going to be talking about at the end of the year. Certainly, Zemi has already declared it his game of the year, and I've done that before. I matter of fact, declared God of War my game of the year in 2017 when I first saw it. It wound up losing.
Shot.
Yeah. Oh no, 100%. I mean, the game was just a masterpiece. I wanted to picking Assassin's Creed because that was, whatever. We won't go there. But I will say that 12 minutes is a title small in scope, small in size, small in development. But my God, it's already getting buzz. And when you have people like, again, folks that say like the man, hate the man, or whatever, Hideo Kojima is a force to be reckoned with. And obviously he's teamed up with Microsoft, and that announcement is coming soon, I would imagine. When he gets out there and he picks your game to tweet about, that is huge. I want your opinion on that, but more so your excitement for this game.
So what you're saying is Hideo Kojima has confirmed that 12 minutes is in fact a pseudo
new Silent Hill game. That
Hill.
is correct.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what he did.
Indeed. No. Weird debacles aside, no, I'm very excited for this game. When it first came, we first saw it in 2019, the first thing that came to mind was there's been that debate back and forth about whether gaming should be considered art or not. This firmly is in the camp of evidence evidence of the validation of its art form, right?
Yes.
And the developer who actually and he's had a lot of really good interviews, including that kind of funny interview. I saw that as well. Boom. He very, very thoughtful, very, very introspective, going through the whole process, and you can clearly see that he's funny. He learned, and
he's funny to listen
he's quite
to.
good.
He's hilarious.
Yeah. and have you seen the man's resume? He's worked in some of the craziest, most high profile places. And then basically he sat down and went, all right, let me do this from scratch. And it's been a journey of his for many, many years, and it is very adult in nature. The game, the ideas behind it are very, very complex and interesting. I'm super excited. Much like you said on the show last night, these are the ones that we should be seeing at the end of the year for the potential award consideration. Such interesting ideas coming from creators that come out of left field that you're not aware of. It's not AAA, thousands of people, tuning hair on a character's head for 6 months. This is very unique ideas, and I'm very, very excited. I'm looking forward to playing through it multiple times, seeing what the variations there are. I have always been a Telltale stan, so I'm very much a narrative person.
Fantastic games.
Yeah, I love campaigns. I'm one of those fools that'll play the campaigns of games that everybody comes in and just plays multiplayer. I'm the guy playing the campaign. So this speaks directly to me, So I'm super excited to see it. I'm super excited to experience it, and believe it or not, I'm actually really excited to hear what people think about it. I'm looking forward to seeing the review scores and stuff. Seeing how because this doesn't seem like it should be everyone's cup of tea, but the buzz is so huge. I'm looking forward to seeing how big it actually blows up. I expected this to be one of those really cool art house, weird indie type situations, the Celeste of its day, if you will. Yeah, but it looks like it might blow bigger than that, and I'm quite interested in that. So I'm looking forward to it.
You know what's funny, Pong? I want to bring you into the conversation. The great points, Kay Asante, as always. So what can I say? I think you're onto something. You know, with what Kay Asante just had to say. You know, we talk about Xbox Game Pass on this show almost like we breathe air, because obviously it's the Xbox Factor podcast. Xbox Game Pass is the best value in gaming, and we have talked about Microsoft needing games to sell their wares, to push the platform, to get you, the gamer, wherever you game, to be a part of the conversation. And we can say Halo Infinite's going to move subs in November. That's a given, right? The Forza Horizon 5, which you see 4 on the screen right here, that's going to move subs, right? 12 minutes is a game I believe could move subs. But I'm interested to see, could a game like 12 minutes get a regular person, right? Like, I'm not talking a hardcore gamer. I'm talking about just a person that buys 2 games a year, right, for PlayStation. Because back in the days when I was growing up, when you got in trouble, your mom would yell at you and say, stop playing that Nintendo, even if I was playing the Genesis or the Turbo Graphics, right? Because that's what was. Nowadays, the kids, it's the PlayStation, right? It's the brand known everywhere. So even if you're playing on your computer, you get yelled at, just turn that PlayStation off. But I'm not on the PlayStation, right? Those are the kind of people, those types of gamers who don't have an investment in what piece of plastic they're playing. I think 12 minutes might be one of those games that breaks barriers and gets those types of gamers to come into the Xbox ecosystem. How do I play that game? Well, you can have it, and you can play it on your computer, or you can get an Xbox. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's certainly a possibility. I think it's more of a stacking effect when you look at these types of games, right? So I think it's if somebody's interested in the indie scene, let's say, overall, and they like to try smaller games, right? And they like to play, games that are kind of outside the norm of what we as hardcore gamers, generally play, although all of us are playing more and more games now. But what I'm saying is the big titles, right? The big AAA titles. If you got somebody who's looking at the indie scene and like, God, I would love to try that. I'd love to try that. I'd love to try that. Look, they've got the ability to already do that in Steam, right? Steam is the best place. It's got the biggest catalog of games as far as indie titles go. But when you start getting more and more of these types of games into Game Pass, what you do is you start, like you said, Boom, people start looking at it and going, okay, where am I going to play this game at? Oh, wait, it's on Game Pass. Okay, so what is Game Pass? Oh, okay, so for $10, I can go ahead and play 12 minutes out the gate. I can play it for 30 days. What else they got in there? Oh my God, look at, I was checking this indie game out before, right? Oh, look this one too. I was checking out this one too. That's why it's so important that we constantly talk, when we talk about Game Pass, that they have the diversity of games in there when they're shooting for this many people. And 12 minutes is definitely a bright star amongst those. 12 minutes is one of those. I don't know what it would take. I really don't know what it would take. I don't even know if it's possible. But if I was Phil, I would go to both Devolver and Annapurna and be like, what is it going to take to have a lifetime contract for all your games that come into Game Pass? What's it going to take? What do we got to work out? Because I think that these two, Annapurna and Devolver, their talent, whoever is their discoverer of talent, and whoever goes out and looks for the next game to publish, they both have somebody or a group of people who are extremely good at what they do, because they don't miss, like you said, Boom. They just don't miss. And so when you see a game like 12 minutes come into Game Pass, I think it's a huge, huge win for Xbox, for Game Pass, to have your game associated with Game Pass, because it's not only good for the publisher, it's not only good for the developer, which you've heard story time after time, but what we have really started to see is that when a game is associated, whether big or small, if it's in Game Pass, it becomes associated with Xbox more so than any other platform, even if it's a multi-plat. it becomes associated with your platform. And now 12 minutes, obviously being Game Pass, Xbox exclusive, etc. This is something special. And I think that what you do is, again, you are putting together a bunch of magnets that attract more and more people into your ecosystem, so that when people are investigating Game Pass or thinking about what their next console is going to be, or they even pick up and find out that the Game Pass app is on their mobile or their tablet or soon their TVs, and they start flipping through the catalog and realizing how much is in there, and all of a sudden a standout game like 12 minutes shows up. They're like, oh my God, really? This is in there? That's when you start to draw more and more people in. And then they tell their friends. And then they tell the next person that they talk to that was like, oh, have you played 12 minutes yet? No. Oh, well, I got it in Game Pass. Yeah, I only had to pay $10 for the month and I got all these games here. And that's how you start to do that. So I think that this just continues to stack more and more quality content. And 12 minutes is huge. Look, I think it's really interesting.
Are you personally excited to play this? Okay.
Absolutely, of course. I think this looks absolutely amazing, but I think it's very interesting, the crossover of Hollywood talent into video games. I have been looking at the situation. You remember back in the day, Boom, for us older gamers back in the day, before voice acting talent became a really critical deal
went like this. Womp, 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 womp,
womp. Right. Or what happened is you go back and look at some of the big games, or not even the big games, but go back and look at some games that were published by AAA publishers. They would bring in Hollywood talent to do things, right? I mean, that's how we got Michael Ironside doing Sam Fisher, right? That's how we got this stuff. They went outside because voice acting was still kind of a niche deal. It hadn't developed into this big, critically acclaimed kind of profession that it is now, where you've got professional voice actors out there making big waves, doing good work. But I think that Hollywood is starting, again, I've said this in the past, but I think now that games have become as mainstream as they are, and because they are the #1 entertainment industry in the world at this point, and I think that the flexibility that gaming allows as far as the creative process goes, I think Hollywood is really looking at games and actors and actresses like Daisy Ridley, William Dafoe, obviously James McAvoy. When they look at going to do a game, I think there was a period of time where it was kind of, you're going to go do a video game. Now I think we're getting back to that point where they look at it and they're like, wow, I really want to go do this. This looks like fun. You mean you got to team up with these people? I think that's the transition we're starting to see right now more and more. We've seen more and more video games going to like Netflix, creating shows off of video games. I think now video games, as big as they are starting to influence Hollywood because of the creative aspect and what they can do outside of the norm when you're shooting a movie or when you're doing a TV series. I think this allows people to expand out, and I think it's no longer looked down upon, but actually looked at as a great asset that you can put on your resume. Hey, Daisy Ridley's not going to go and hide the fact that she was in 12 minutes. If 12 minutes comes out and hits the way we think it is, and it may win some Game of the Years or whatever the case may be, she's going to proudly say she was a part of 12 minutes because it's something different. It's something cool. It's something unique out there in the industry. And I think that's a huge win on top of it, just for the games industry as a whole, that we're starting to see this kind of crossover again. Again, nothing against the voice actors out there. There's some great people doing some fantastic work. But anytime you see big time actors like this willing to come in, I think that's special, especially in a small game. Not a AAA game, not a big gigantic game, huge money or whatever else, made by one guy who just learned how to develop games, who taught himself how to code, right? Just learned how to do it. And all of a sudden his game has Daisy Ridley, William Dafoe, and James McAvoy attached to it. That's crazy. That shows the power of gaming industry right now.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you're onto something with that. As a matter of fact, I don't think we're too far from the truth in saying that, again, the game has to be good, folks. It seems like it's telling a pretty good story. This thing could win a couple of BAFTA awards. And I got news for you. When you could turn around, listen, the Game Awards are great, right? You can say you get one of those goofy statues and you're like, this is great. But when you win a BAFTA, now we're talking something different. And listen, folks, this has been a great 2 hours. We got one last person to get a 3-bit to get his opinion. We'll get everyone out of here. But I just want to catch up on a couple of the super chats. Elemental Pio, good and generous friend of the show, You just cost me $100, my friend. He says this. Good afternoon, panel and gamers. I can't wait for 12 minutes. Boom. Did you pre-order the Nerf Aliens-inspired assault rifle yet? Well, thanks to you, dude. I just did live on the air. If you are an Aliens fan like I am, which, by the way, on the 24th, Aliens Fire Team is coming out, and I am there. My God, that game looks so good, and it's telling a story. I'm an Alien stan, bro. Like, Alien is great. Aliens, James Cameron's Aliens, I could watch every day of the week and never get bored. What an incredible film. The game's coming out, and they have a pulse rifle. It's yellow. It's not green like the one from the movie, but it looks dope. And yes, thanks to you, Elemental PO, I did buy it. So thank you for that. Raiden Blade drops an additional, wow, £2 super chat and says, are you going to talk about the 4K dashboard coming? Not really, dude. It wasn't. I mean, again, folks, Xbox got a lot of slack from not having a 4K dashboard. Well, that's been fixed. That if you're on the Insider program, you can download that upgrade to your to your existing what was it, 1080p or whatever it was. I don't think it matters to me, honestly.
Have people actually been complaining about that?
Originally, yeah, they did.
Yes.
I spend so much time on the Xbox home screen. Like, it's by far my favorite game. Before that, on the 360 dashboard, that was my favorite game. And I have not complained about the graphics on the dashboard. Come on.
The only thing that I would say that is annoying about it, the only thing is that the PlayStation it's already set to HDMI. So when you turn it on, it's already at HDMI. And the Xbox switches when you're playing the game. So there's always that momentary blackout switch to HDMI.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. Besides that, who gives a...
Yeah, but I mean, whenever it's switching over, though, I mean, like, you still have to like wait for the game to have that initial load anyway, and it's not like that black screen takes forever.
It's just weird and jarring. Whereas on the PlayStation, it just goes right in because it's already in that mode from jump.
Yeah,
so it's just a little more smoother. That's the only difference. It transitions to HDR10 or HDR Vision or whatever. This is specific to the LG CX. Other TVs have other versions of the way they do it, but that's the only thing. There's a little bit of a hitch with smooth transition. That's all. Doesn't matter.
Which, by the way, I'll be caught. I don't know who was it that told me that I got to talk to them about a TV because I'm getting a CX. This
when you're ready, let me know. I did that research recently. Yeah.
I'm gonna get a CX. I've come to the real. I like Samsung stuff, but the Dolby Vision.
Yeah. See, if you want to go quote unquote future proof, it would be the C1 right now, but the CX is on good deal, so you could also do that.
I'm just gonna go for the best. We'll talk.
So then that would be the C1.
I'm gonna go for the someone in my family is getting a TV that's only 2 years old that has an 8-year warranty on it. So someone's gonna win. Boom is not winning because I'm giving the TV away for free. I don't sell stuff to my family, but someone's gonna win, and I'm getting a C1 or a CX or whatever. But 3-bit, listen. I'm interested to get your opinion on it because obviously we know that you're in the business. We understand that as an indie developer yourself, to see the buzz that 12 minutes is getting is awe-inspiring for all of us. We're all content creators, but we're all indie content creators, right? We don't have the 100,000 subs or the 500,000 subs. I'd love to say that I'll get there one day, and who knows, maybe I will. It just takes one interview or one big show to get there, but we're all indies, and to see the success, the game isn't even out and it's successful, at least in my opinion. When you have Hideo Kojima coming out there, when you have Greg Miller out there, who, whether you like the guy or you don't, he's a big name in the industry. He's pushing the game. We're seeing other the talent that's part of it. Where do you fall on your excitement for 12 minutes, and how excited are you for the creator of the game?
Yeah, it's I'm really looking forward to the game. And ever since I played another Annapurna game, Her Story, I've been looking at that.
Her Story is magnificent, by the way.
Amazing game. Everyone should try out that game if they haven't. It's another Annapurna game, and they are a super creative studio, just focusing on these good sort of thrilling stories. And it's amazing that this game will be available on Game Pass, right? So people I think people need to stop worrying about whether or not Xbox is going to make or how they make money, or how the developer is going to make money. Your job is the consumer. So if you're interested in the game, guess what? It's available to you, right?
Yes.
You guys don't have to worry about us devs. We are eating fine. Game Pass is amazing, right? And I'm really looking forward to what this game is. I've been looking at trailers and I want to know more. It's definitely got me intrigued, just based on the trailers, because I'm trying not to look at too many videos on it just because I'm that interested in it. It seems like whoever is breaking into your apartment, there are different solutions, and you have like 12 sort of minutes to figure out, like maybe he breaks in the door and you put like a couch there, and then he breaks in, just jumps over the couch, and you're dead. You're like, oh well, let me.
Don't do that.
That's what I picture. Like the game is like,
Yeah.
it's like you're.
I've decided I'm
solving.
going to put the knife on the table immediately.
Yeah. Or maybe he's like, okay, he jumps over the couch, but what if you put a bear trap on the other side of the couch, and he
I'm
jumps
hiding
over?
in the closet. I'm going to the closet. I'm gonna leave my wife out there. Whatever happens. I'm going to the closet.
Wow.
But it seems like it's a learning type game where like you break in and you're learning, like, you have like 12 minutes to figure out different steps. I don't know. That's what I picture the game is. It's probably nothing like that, but that alone, that concept in my head, it has me intrigued. So we'll see. Like I'm proud of him having one developer work on this game, and I know what that's like, and it's not always fun. But it's amazing that he's able to get support from all these huge actors. Like that's amazing. Like Pong was saying, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, that was a thing in the past with all these major actors. There wasn't like what it is now, like all these different voice actors and specialists, people who are really deep into like mocap work, and so it is really cool to see Daisy Ridley and all this huge talent involved with this guy who probably just had a really cool vision and wanted to see who wanted to jump in for the ride. It's such a cool concept. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah, again, it's one of those games that I think is going to. First of all, shame on me for not saying who the creator's actual name is. It's Luis Antonio, if you didn't know. And what's crazy is that his resume is pretty stout, he got turned down, folks. His game got turned down a lot, and he finally was told, "Hey, listen, he was told you should make this game on your own." And here we are all these years later, 6 years in the making, of a lot of no's, a lot of programming on the weekends, learning the code. Go figure. Wow. But you know what? Here it is this Thursday, 12 minutes, downloaded an Xbox Game Pass. And I can't wait to see. You know why I can't wait? Because we get a chance to hang out almost every week. I can't wait to talk with everyone in the green room and be like, did you have this happen? No, but I had this happen. I can't wait to get the water cooler stories that we're all going to be telling for what seems like weeks. And of course, Annapurna, what could you say? They just continue to knock it out of the park. And listen, great 2-hour show. We were great to get Pong Soul, who missed last week, back. We also get Kay Asante back, who just stepped out. I'll give him a proper outro. And of course, it was great to have 3-Bit and Zemi Games. So let's get to the outros. First, I want to say thank you to all of the people here. We had almost 300 people here once again. That is a big deal for a small show that's continuing to grow. And I want to thank all the super chats that came in. There was a lot of them. I don't think I missed any. I hope I didn't. But if I want to thank you again, the support that comes in financially allows my wife and I to do the big giveaways. And next Tuesday, which is not next Tuesday, the following Tuesday, the 31st, when Song of Iron is going to be released. I'm trying to get Joe on the show, obviously, because it's the day that his game releases. But Mrs. Boomstick and I are giving away 10 copies of Song of Iron live on the air, and all you got to do is be in the chat. That's it. No super chats, no channel membership. Be here with us to celebrate the game and you have a chance to win. We're giving 10 copies, and he is not providing those copies. Mrs. Boomstick and I are specifically buying those copies because we want to support his long journey to get this game out to all of us, and we couldn't be happier. I wish I could give away 100 copies, to be honest with you, but we're giving away 10, and I'm hoping to get Joe on the show that day to celebrate the launch of his game. But of course, let's get with the outros. And Zemi Games, we're going to start first with you. Tell everyone where they can reach out to you on social media, but more importantly, where can people subscribe to your YouTube channel and check out your incredible website known as the Constant Gamer?
Yeah, absolutely. So constantgamer.com is still being updated, changed, so on and so forth. So, still hold on that. But in the meantime, you guys can go and check me out on YouTube. It's called Constant Gamer. That's the YouTube channel. I make a ton of gaming related content, gaming news, theory videos, reviews, so on and so forth. So once again, if you want to go check that out, go watch some videos. It's called Constant Gamer. If you like the content, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And then you guys can also check me out on Twitter at Zimi Games. I post gaming news, just the typical stuff that you would expect someone, a content creator in the gaming community to post on Twitter. Once again, that's at Zimi Games. Boom. Thank you so much. And just to reiterate, I am never going to ride with you in a car. You are a madman behind the wheel. I don't want any part of it.
Well, I don't drive like that in real life. It's only because
at E3, next year, whenever next E3 is at, if we're ever there together, I'm not hopping into a car with you unless I'm driving.
Well, I'll say this. All you have to do is, if you are renting a vehicle, certainly don't ask Boom to sit in it, because I will steal your car. Like King David's Camaro that I had to take around the corner because he parked in a bus stop. The popos were coming, and I didn't tin them because, of course, I have my ID. They wouldn't have bothered me, but I took it upon myself to not have to talk to the popo and simply just drive around the block. And that's a story for another podcast. So yes, I did steal King David's Camaro and returned it unharmed, unlike the car in front of you that you see I keep crashing. Pong Soul, thank you so much for being here, brother. Great to have you a part of today's show, of course, of every Xbox Factor podcast on Tuesday. Tell everyone about the shows that you're on, and more importantly, where could people subscribe to your YouTube channel and strike up a conversation on social media?
Oh, Boom, it was so good to be back, man. I missed everybody last week. Real life is just kicking my butt right now, but that's what happens. And it looks like it's going to be the foreseeable future, but I missed you all. It was great to be back here. See Zemi, yourself, Boom, and of course, having 3-Bit on. And of course, didn't get to say goodbye to him, but Kea Sante joining for this show was amazing. I love what he does all the time. So this has been awesome. Chat, it was phenomenal to see you guys all again. As always, you guys are great. You drive the show, as Mr. Boom talks about. Without you guys, we're nothing. So a bunch of talking heads. So here we are. But you guys can follow me, Pong Soul, everywhere, Xbox and Twitter, of course. And otherwise, you can find me Friday nights on Xbox Ultimate on Fun Speculation Channel's Mavs channel, aka Fun Speculation, with his amazing wife, Caitlin, of course, who is also in the chat today, and my brother from another 3-Bit right here. You can find us there 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Central Time. Saturday mornings, Living Split Screen. We just wrapped up episode 20 this past weekend. Can't believe it's already been 20 shows. My brother from another, Steel Rain, and I are still doing it, and we are absolutely loving it. So come check us out, Living Split Screen, 9 a.m. Eastern, or 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central Time, and of course 3 p.m. UK time. That's Living Split Screen, all one word. The Shop Podcast with PTK Blam is on hiatus, but we may be coming back sooner than later. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. That is Saturday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Central Time. But definitely keep watch on my Twitter for that. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Play what you love what you play. It really is the golden age of gaming. There's so much content coming out. It's not even funny anymore. Just having a great time. But love you all, and we will talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here, brother. And last and no way least, 3-Bit, thank you so much for coming back and hanging out with us each and every Tuesday. Tell everyone about your incredible YouTube channel, what else you got going on, and where could people reach out to you on social media?
Sure. Everyone can follow me on Twitter at the VGHT. My YouTube channel is Video Games HT. I'm on just 2 shows now. It's this one and Xbox Ultimate every Friday. I've been posting a lot of different animation stuff you guys can check out on my Twitter. Tomorrow there's actually an event in Atlanta where we are. I've been working on a mural with me and my sister, and we are presenting it to Stacey Abrams and a couple other, and Tyler Perry. So that is happening.
Love some Tyler Perry.
Yeah, Tyler Perry will be there, and that's tomorrow. That's in real life, but I'll update you guys online as well. And
awesome.
Yeah, it's been super busy, but it's been awesome shows. Emmy, Boom, Pong, and even Kay. It's awesome being on the show with you guys and everybody in chat, Phasma, and Cade, and everybody. You guys are amazing. So thank you guys for coming, and I'll see you guys in the next show.
Well, that kind of success couldn't come to a better person. The fact that you're meeting Tyler Perry and you're presenting your artwork with your sister, which I think is amazing. That's a family affair, and who better to be there than Tyler Perry, who supports the arts in a big way. If you didn't know, Tyler Perry is obviously a huge Hollywood star. He has his studio in Atlanta, but he is also as a common person that cares about the people as they come. His generosity is not to be believed. In the fact that you're going to be presenting and having him involved, that's super fantastic for you as well as your career. Thanks so much for being here, brother. Definitely appreciate you being here each and every week. And of course, I'll close out today's show with something that's important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he said, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're gonna have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week. The rest of the week, there are no new shows. Mrs. Boomstick and I are going to be on hiatus. We're going on vacation. We're getting up at 4:30 in the morning twice this week for our 5K walks. And we're going to be doing some shopping, going out there, spending some time with each other. We'll be back at it full force next week. Enjoy the rest of this week. And, of course, enjoy gaming anywhere you enjoy gaming. We'll see you next week, everyone. Love you all. Thanks for supporting Double Barrel Gaming.